in jail awaiting to be deported, so he could never have done anything said to be central to the plot. The allegation that something was going to occur could never have taken place. That's why I'm so upset about that conviction, because the conviction doesn't have to rely on a specific act taking place. It can be a conspiracy, which means an agreement to commit some sort of act in preparation of a terrorist attack. Means that them talking together about doing something against the Holsworthy Army Barracks. Well, not only did not happen, it could never have happened. But it's still a crime according to Australian counter-terrorism law, and they're going to be punished for it, and they will go to jail, I expect, for some years. Here's a person wants to know whether they can involve themselves in the campaign against the boycott Israel trade sanctions. We're acting for all of those people who are charged with boycotting Max Brenner stores, the chocolate organisation that has links with the Israeli army. Nearly all of them are students. Can you get into trouble if you support them? Well, you shouldn't get into trouble if you support them, and my view is that they're legitimately entitled to peacefully protest, and that's what they've done against Max Brenner and what they're on about. We're entitled to say, here's a company that we don't agree with their involvement with the Israeli army. We think that if there's going to be any justice in Palestine, then Israel investment should be boycotted. So my view is that you can become involved in it. Your risk is, if you do become involved in it, like lots of the students that have been, they're going to get charged. Here's a person says that they get a bit anxious when they're on the phone and they let their emotions run away with them because they want to talk about the injustices that have occurred. Can they get into trouble? You can if you say things that incite violence or hatred, but you're allowed to say that it's a complete outrage, as I've said, that Jack Thomas was ever charged and spent any time in custody, or the Tamil people were ever charged with providing humanitarian relief to their community. So you're entitled to say those things, but again, it's all a question of making sure that you don't overstep the mark. One thing that we've had a debate about in this country in the last couple of years is whether torture can ever be justified. There are some people who say, well, you're permitted to engage in torture like they did in Guantanamo Bay for Khalid, what's his name, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, is it? Waterboarding and things of that nature, because they wanted to prevent further terrorist attack. And so, is it legitimate for any of those intelligence or policing agencies to engage in torture? Well, it's specifically prohibited and it's illegal in this country, and there's a strong view that it should be and should remain so. The short answer to that question is no. You can never justify torture to extract information. Here's a question about how governments have enormous resources. Why can't they go and defeat Al-Qaeda, the Taliban and Al-Shabaab instead of harassing Muslims? Well, the problem you've got, as we said about the death of Osama bin Laden, It's madness to think that if you take one person out, you'll break the organisation if the organisation has a groundswell of public support. And it's true of every organisation. If it's popularly supported, it's true of what's happened in Iraq. Doesn't matter how many people they try and eliminate. People don't support them, then there's another one to take their place. I think that just about covers it. I'm happy to wait around after we're finished if anyone's got any more questions. So thanks very much for having me tonight.
Rob, can you just elaborate a little bit more on the materials? You said before that having materials is not a crime in itself. However, people being charged with possession of something.
Yeah.
So how does that work in?
It's true. You can be charged with an offence called possession of a thing. That's what the offence is called, possession of a thing. What's a thing? Is it literature? Is it a video? Is it CD? Is it military equipment? Is it chemical glassware? Any of that can amount to possession of a thing, but it's got to be used for some terrorist purpose. So that's the key to it, for the fostering or nurturing for the commission of a terrorist attack. So, as in the Benbrika case, it's not enough simply to have the material in your possession. You've got to have it for some other purpose. And so there's a real debate. There are those people who believe in freedom of thought, say, well, you should be permitted to read and see anything. The community says there's got to be limitations on what you can see. You can't look at pornography, for instance, or certain forms of pornography. You can't look at material that inspires racial vilification or hatred. So there are limits on what you can view. But it seems to me politically you can view other things that you might support, for instance, Kashmiri independence. Are you permitted to look at videos that talk about Kashmiri independence? I think you can. But the area is not black and white. There are areas of grey. So you just need to be cautious. The more it might said to be offensive to the community, that involves, for instance, depiction of the killing of innocents or the bombing of military targets or whatever it might be, then that might cause more trouble.
So we thank Rob Starry for his presentation today, and as he said, he's happy to stick around a little bit for those of you that want to have a bit of a one-on-one with him.